That's not the only thing I came here to talk to you about, because I told you this was a tale of two things. And that second thing is titties. TikTok and titties. Whose titties? Sydney Sweeney's titties. That's whose titties. Hello and welcome to Ruben Uncut. Today's double feature topic, which might seem like a pun in a moment, will be TikTok and titties. But first, we're going to start off with TikTok, because the thing happened with TikTok right now, as you may be aware. Right now, Congress is talking about, quote unquote, banning TikTok. Now, this isn't actually what Congress is trying to do. This needs to be stated. The most likely scenario is that TikTok will not be banned, unless, of course, ByteDance, the people who own TikTok, get weird about it, because there is, in fact, precedence for what the government is trying to do with TikTok and previous online social media apps. But we'll get into that in a second. I'm just going to show you a clip.
Starting with the social media app right now, TikTok is mobilizing its users, telling them to call lawmakers to oppose any restrictions. And it's a move a congressman from Houston is calling dangerous.
Today, if you want to use your TikTok account, you have to put in your zip code so that TikTok can tell you which representative you should call. Imagine when China wants to use it more nefariously. Imagine when they want to truly engage in psychological warfare against the American people.
The legislation would require TikTok to find a new owner and remove itself from China-based ByteDance. If they don't, the app would get banned from app stores in the United States. It's now moving forward after the committee passed it unanimously.
So that clip didn't say the best part. That clip did not say the best part of that story. So I apologize for playing you that worthless clip. Because the best part of that story, thousands of children call Congress to save TikTok, crying users hammer lawmakers' phones from school and tell them to vote against bill that could ban the app because of links to China. Now, this article I'm reading you for right now is from the Daily Mail, but just so you don't think I have any type of Daily Mail-based bias, I actually first learned about this from NPR. So, opposite end of the spectrum, really. Thousands of TikTok users are calling members of Congress to demand they vote against the bill that could ban the app because of its links to China. Capitol Hill aides say children, some crying and some in classrooms, are calling into their office and making phones ring off the hook, fearing their favorite social media platform is at risk. Staffers to members on Energy and Commerce Committee say people of all ages called throughout the morning expressing concerns about the laws that would force owner ByteDance to divest in TikTok. TikTok spokesperson told Daily Mail the notification went to users who are 18 plus. Other staffers were shocked that so many grown men were calling and were accusing members of being racist by supporting the bipartisan bill. Republicans say the flood of calls is down to TikTok lobbying users. Some see alert on the app with an option to call their local member of Congress based on the zip code they are in. Callers told staffers the alert would not go away and allow them to access the app until they called. That's the first I'm hearing about that detail, so that's fun. Some callers are just hanging up as soon as they get the answer, only concerned with accessing the app. And here's what it looks like. TikTok, stop a TikTok shutdown. Congress is planning on a total ban of TikTok. Speaking up now before your government strips 170 million Americans of their constitutional right to free expression. Technically, that's you can't really say that's happening because they could make these same videos on any other public social media site as well. Everyone has ripped off the TikTok formula at this point. It's just not as cool to be on Facebook with your parents as it is to be on TikTok. This will damage millions of businesses, destroy the livelihoods of countless creators across the country, and deny artists an audience. Let Congress know what TikTok means to you and tell them to vote no. Enter 5-digit zip code to find your representative. Oh, look, they have a video. TikToker takeover of Capitol Hill's phone lines got so insane that Representative Ashley Hinson started answering calls herself to explain to middle schoolers what the bill does. Oh my God, we have to watch this. Hinson sits on the committee on CCP that originated the bill requiring the app to divest from ByteDance. We're going to talk about the difference between banning and divesting in a second here.
TikTok, it actually just would require TikTok to cut ties with the Chinese Communist Party because the parent company is ByteDance, and they are directly tied to the bad people in China. So what we want to do is make sure your data is protected, and you what? They're trying to use your information and your data, and that's what they are doing. So just think of it like they're spying on you by using that app. So we want to make sure that they can't do that and that you're safe. And so as long as they are willing to divest any ties to the Chinese Communist Party, then they can continue to have the app for Americans. And I think that's really important that we make sure we're protecting you as much as possible.
That wasn't as funny as I was hoping it would be, but it is still... Like, she is talking to a literal child. Daily Mail, you are slowing down my connection. It's pissing me off. They are unending, one staffer on Energy and Commerce member told Daily Mail. All 4 lines. I mean, if they're blocking your use of the app, that actually makes a lot of sense that they are unending. Like, literally, that means they are going to get at least a phone call, although from the sound of it, a lot of people are just hanging up immediately until they call. Which that's a little fucked up, TikTok. That's a little fucked up. We got hammered very hard until 12:30 p.m. today, says ENC member aide. We've had young children in classrooms. You can hear teachers, other students in the back room calling just so they can access the app, said another aide to ENC members. Also, you can just what's going on in these classrooms? The kids can just access TikTok in the middle of his school. Maybe we should take... I'm conflicted on taking away kids' phones in schools for a couple reasons. One, school shooters. Kind of want them to have a phone in that scenario, don't you? To document and also to call for help. But at the same time, like, phones are addicting and distracting. Not going to help you in school. Let's move along. Had a few adults call and say they use the app to look at women. Did have one person say banning TikTok is racist. Maybe we are using the word racist too much. I mean, technically, you could make the argument it's xenophobic, because it's really more about the government and the country of China than the actual race of Asian. Most don't know the connection to China and are receptive when we tell them the facts, the staffer added. That's good to know. That's good to know. I almost showed you a video on this article from the Young Turks, but honestly, now that I'm actually seeing more information, I know that that video was actually, they seem slanted in the favor of TikTok. Now, I want to be clear here. We'll get into that. Representative Ashley Hinson, Republican of Iowa, ended up answering phone calls by, okay, we already... TikTok has no regard for kids' mental health. China has a vested interest in hurting our youth, and they're using this app to do it. She didn't say that in the video. And I will say that actually that's a little bit more paranoid. Look, so I do think there are legitimate concerns about having a foreign government directly able to communicate with your children. That is weird. If TikTok wants to keep its users in the US, they will have to cut ties with China and ByteDance. I'm a mama bear on a mission to protect our kids, she added. How Russian-y is that? You know, like Sarah Palin started the whole mama bear thing, I'm pretty confident. And that bitch can see Russia from her house. I would not be surprised if the Russians were influencing Sarah Palin, is what I'm saying. I have no evidence for that claim. I'm just saying I wouldn't be surprised. It's called speculation. It's not the same thing as making a statement of fact. The calls came as Energy Commerce Committee was in rare classified hearing about the threats of TikTok before advancing a new bill that would force Chinese state affiliates ByteDance to divest in TikTok or else be banned in the US. Now, to be fair, what they really mean is banned from app stores because it's the internet. You can't really, if someone wants to download something like this on their phone, they'll get away with it. There are ways to do it. TikTok will do anything they can, including manipulating and exploiting American users in order to prevent the CCP-controlled ByteDance from being banned from the US, said Energy and Commerce Chair Kathy McMorris Rogers on X. course, they're on X. The thing you need to know about this bill is that it's nonpartisan. It is a bill that is popular amongst both Republican and Democratic leaders. It technically doesn't matter who you vote for in this one. They all want to ban TikTok. Now, you may be wondering, why would they want to ban TikTok? And for those who are unaware, the reason they want to ban TikTok is because the TikTok is directly financially linked to the Chinese Communist Party, who are not very communisty at all, but they are very authoritarian. And they also own a percentage of every corporation that exists in China. And that includes TikTok. TikTok is technically owned by the Chinese Communist Party, which means that they have full range of access to see what you're looking at, what videos you're watching, but also they are the ones behind the algorithm that chooses what you watch. Now, these things, of course, make certain people in America very uncomfortable. And actually, it's not illogical to feel this way. Although, in fairness, China would probably just use this data to cheat harder at capitalism, their new favorite thing. Although you can't really cheat at capitalism because capitalism has no morals or standards, just the belief that making money is good, which is something ironically, the Communist Chinese Party now believes is good. Capitalism, I mean. But let's move right along. This makes America very uncomfortable. Now, this is not actually the first time this has happened. Happened with Grindr. That's right, Grindr was previously partly owned by the Chinese government, which meant that the Chinese government knew who was on the down low. And since people in the military might be lying about not being gay, that was seen as a potential security risk. What if the Chinese government discovered who was gay in the military and not being open about it? Well, the Chinese government could then use that to blackmail a member of the U.S. military. And that was a very scary thought to America. So what did America do? Well, they forced the Chinese government to divest from Grindr. What does that mean? Well, essentially it means is that the app itself would sell off its American user base and the company inside the United States to a completely different company. China, of course, my understanding is that China would have continued to run the company in their country, although I might be getting this wrong, so I'm just going to shut the fuck up about it. But the point is that the American government's goal is to get ByteDance to divest from TikTok, allowing TikTok to then become a separate American TikTok company, at which point you get to still go on the TikToks. Yes, I did say TikTok on purpose and pretended like it was an accident just to trigger the youth. You see, the thing is that hilariously, this holding their app hostage from children who, by the way, they're, just so you know, I don't know what would concern you more as a person, the fact that ByteDance is lying about knowing who is 18 plus, or the idea that they actively know who is 18 plus or not. I don't know which of those would concern you more. But like I've read in this article, they claimed that it was only sent to people who were 18 and older, but clearly that is not true. Not only is it not true, I personally have never had TikTok try and figure out my actual age. And it doesn't ask me for ID. To be fair, I don't go on it all the time, which is why I haven't called my congressman yet. Although I guess I could call him about something else. I'm sure I've got something else to bitch at him about. Or her. Who's my congressman? Where do I live? Not going to tell you, because that would get me doxxed. But anyways, the funny part of this is, in fact, the fact that TikTok's bold play backfired hysterically. You see, it turns out when a bunch of children call their congressman saying things like, what's Congress and don't take my TikTok away? These are quotes from the NPR article I listened to earlier. it kind of solidified in our government's heads all their worst fears, that China could manipulate our children. And as you know, America's politicians are very sensitive to this topic. So this was a terrifying nightmare for them. Yes, all TikTok did was make it worse. Now, if the majority of people who had called had only been voting age adults, maybe they wouldn't have been quite as freaked out by it. But that would also mean that TikTok had American citizens' driver's licenses. And I don't know if you know this, but a driver's license is very usable for identity theft. So, just a warning. Also, this is the thing I learned from working in insurance and having to take white-collar crime, like, trainings. I don't mean on doing it, I mean on recognizing it or avoiding it. The number one document you should be very concerned about is a change of address statement. Fun facts. Be very cautious with those. Best way to steal a person's identity, apparently. Anyways, so what's going to happen is either they will get the company to divest, which is very likely, since technically losing all those customers would be even more financially devastating if you didn't get a buyout for those customers, which I'm sure there will be some type of compensation. After all, an American corporation will be looking to buy TikTok should the divestment go forward. That being said, right now the company is putting up a fight because it would rather not lose all the revenue it gets from the 170 million Americans that it currently makes money off of. So that going to another corporation isn't their favorite thing. That being said, like I said, a buyout will be much more favorable to them than just losing all those customers. Or at least the majority of them. Banning the app will certainly make it much less common in the American market, and will prevent people from updating the app regularly. Now, like I said before, this is a non-partisan thing. Donald Trump previously wanted to ban TikTok, and I forget what state it is, already tried to ban it once. They are very concerned about TikTok on both sides of the aisle. So that's the crazy shit. You can't even really vote TikTok lovers in. I mean, I guess you could vote them in, but you can't vote out TikTok haters, because this is a bipartisan effort. Trump has said he wanted to ban it, and Biden has said that if it comes across his desk, he will sign it, which basically means if Congress and the Senate sign it, so will Biden. Now, if you love the TikTok, you basically got two options: pressure Congress or pressure ByteDance to sell. I just think it's hilarious that a bunch of children called Congress, frankly. Hello, thank you for calling your congressman. This is his aide. What would you like to call it? What are you calling about? Please, you guys, don't take away my TikTok. I'm sorry? Yes, please, don't take away my TikTok. I don't know what Congress is, but please don't take away my TikTok. Tammy, we're in the middle of a test. Please don't take away my TikTok. Okay, let's calm down, young man. What seems to be the problem? I was trying to watch TikTok in the middle of class, and my phone said that I couldn't watch TikTok unless I called Congress and asked you not to ban TikTok. Okay, let's take a deep breath. We're not going to ban TikTok. What's a Congress? Why are you taking away my Tammy, we're taking a test. Okay, let's just, young man, Just relax. We're not gonna take. If I clean my room, can I keep the TikTok? Can I keep it if I clean my room? I'm sorry. Okay, young man, just calm down. We're not gonna ban TikTok. We just want ByteDance to just de-invest in the country. I don't know what ByteDance is. What is Congress? Why are you doing it? You're racist. You're all racist. Young man, I think you need to go back to your class. Why would you do this to me? Okay. Young man, I have only one thing to say to you. Yeah? What? You're not old enough to vote. Goodbye. Click. Oh my God. This is gonna be a long day. Oh, thank you for calling Congress. I am the aide to your congressman. Please tell me what you want. Yo, man. Why you trying to take away me looking at booty dances on TikTok? Oh, for the love of God. That's not the only thing I came here to talk to you about, because I told you this was a tale of two things. And that second thing is titties. TikTok and titties. Whose titties? Sydney Sweeney's titties. That's whose titties. The National Post recently wrote an article by Amy Ham, which is a funny name. Wokeness is no match for Sydney Sweeney's undeniable beauty. We've been pressured into pretending everyone is beautiful except for those who actually are. Which is not a thing. Not a thing. No one is out here pretending to find. Do you understand that people just find different looks attractive? Like that's very important to understand here. We just find different looks attractive. So like even this like sub headline here, we've been pressured to pretend everyone is beautiful except for those who actually are. That's weird. First of all, you're poisoning the well, and also that statement is insane. It wants to establish the concept of beauty as an objective standard, but if you look at history, if you look like through the history of like fashion and appearance and all that stuff, there is no consistent standard. What is considered hot or attractive or unattractive changes rapidly sometimes throughout history. The Greeks were really into small penises. Yeah. They thought big penises were unseemly. Well, that's clearly changes the societal standard. Society now loves big penises. Or at least the media does. It's hard to tell how much of it's real and how much of it is just selling dick pills. But also, skinniness and fatness have been at various different points in history attractive. The super skinny look came in America after World War II, because during World War II, everyone grew up with not enough food to eat. So most people were skinny AF. This led to most people being skinny, and this made the standard of normalization of very skinniness for a while. But you have to understand, there's also things like the painter Ruben, not spelled the same way, who is famous for his paintings of Rubenesque women. For those who don't know, that means a little on the pudgy side. They got themselves a belly. Ruben was into that. Now, to be fair, Ruben was also into essentially work for hire painting, where he would essentially drop sketches and then have ghost painters finish the sketches. But whatever, he was into them thick bitches. Which, you know, do what you love. The other day I saw an ad for a plus-size sex doll. Not just a plus-size sex doll, but like kind of a trashy plus-size sex doll in terms of how they were dressed and the general trailer park vibes they were giving off. Someone's paying nearly $3,000 for that. You gotta be into fat chicks to pay $3,000 for a sex doll with that look. But let's see what this person has to say. It says it takes 4 minutes to read, which is great because I'm lazy. I'm not really lazy. I'm neurodiverse, which makes it hard for me to focus on stuff. Although I don't think I'm going to have trouble focusing on this article. Oh, here's how it comes in. Oh, this is going to start hilarious. Are Sydney Sweeney's breasts double D harbingers of the death of woke? Of the death of woke. This feels clunky. This is what the public is asking. That really makes me worry about the public. Just saying. At least those on social media, after the Euphoria actress garnered a particularly large audience as host of Saturday Night Live last week. Sweeney is obviously a conventionally attractive young woman, and if you don't personally admire her beauty, we can certainly all agree that she's got a voluminous appeal. Sweeney knows this and runs with it, playfully owning her sexual appeal with zero apologies. On SNL, she bulged from her top, self-deprecatingly suggested that her breasts are her backup career, and now, virally, donned a Hooters uniform for a rather unsophisticated sketch dedicated to her overflowing cups. All right. Okay. As someone who hangs out with very woke groups like, you know, the queers, let me tell you something. The only people who aren't super into tits are straight women. Straight women are the only people not into tits. Everybody likes tits. Everybody likes tits. Even gay men think tits are cool, at least. And I'm actually I'm actually citing data, by the way, from a Magic of Sex book I used to steal off my parents' shelves when they weren't paying attention, where it stated that, by and large, straight men, gay men, and lesbian women all think breasts are awesome. It is only straight women who kind of think they're lame. Plus-size people, by the way, and if this is some type of, I don't know where this is going yet, but if this is some type of crack about, oh, the fattos are out there uglying it up, if that's where she's going with this, fat people got pretty big tits. I don't know what kind of win that is. Everybody likes tits. I do think it's funny she called the Hooters sketch unsophisticated. Like any of the jokes you mentioned before were sophisticated. Exactly how this led to a cultural cataclysm over beauty and wokeness can be summarized as follows. We've spent years being chastised for desiring, admiring beauty. Not true. You have been criticized for putting down other people's appearances. Those are not the same thing. Those are not the same thing. Because beauty is rare and exclusionary, and to exclude is to hate. That you got a really fascist conception of beauty. Beauty is not exclusionary. Beauty is subjective. Everybody liking something else. I can normally find 1 to 2 things on most people that I think are pretty beautiful in terms of physical features. Open your minds. Or so we've been scolded to accept by today's diversity, equity, and inclusion fanatics. No one that excluding literally has nothing to do with this. DEI and people being hot? Like what is this? What the fuck is I gotta get higher for this. Legal in my state. Oh, I gotta stop giving you information about my state. We aren't supposed to admire Sweeney's beauty, but we've done it anyways. The times, they are a-changing, aren't they? No, they're not. What the fuck are you talking about? We were drooling over, like, like people being hot comes into the public conversation all the time. If you see, like, what do you think is happening here? What's happening here is that I don't know what's wrong with these people. Like this, it's like this woman has literally bought into like the made up stories of feminists made by like Andrew Tate types on the internet. It's weird. Who is scolding you for saying someone is attractive? I mean, maybe it was a sexual harassment issue where you were like, hey, man, hey, Sarah, you're looking good today. Nice tits. I'm going to HR, Tom. What? No one will let me admire tits anymore. What the fuck? Yeah, I lost my job because of wokeness. All I did was admire a woman's beauty and sent her a text about how I'd like to use her balloons of fun as my walkway of joy. Sorry, I was trying to think of a way to like talk about banging some boobies without, you know, being too graphic, and it did not work. Recall the words of unrepentant thought criminal Jordan Peterson. Okay, well, that explains the article. Also, you're painting a rich man who has a steady job as a victim because some people don't like him. Oh, he's a thought criminal. No, he said a bunch of shit on Twitter, a place where when you say shit, anyone can respond to you. Jordan Peterson on plus-size model that graced the cover of Sports Illustrated 2 years back. Sorry, not beautiful. And no amount of authoritarian tolerance is going to change that. So, like, but here's the thing, though. Allowing fat people to have dignity and to recognize that their bodies can also be beautiful does not change how hot Sydney Sweeney is. These things don't cancel out. Admitting that some people like fat bodies is not the same as being suddenly like, oh, skinny people are ugly now. Traditionally attractive people are ugly now. These don't cancel out. These don't cancel out because attraction is an individual trait. You as an individual like different types of people and body types and personalities. Don't believe me? Okay, nerds, dig in for this. Why do you think harem animes exist, nerds? It's so that there can be multiple different types of women for them to have as a love interest. In that scenario, they get to appeal to more people's types of attractions. It's why you do that. It's why love triangles are so popular in media, because you're bound to think that the person is that they should be with this person instead of that person. And why do you think there's so many different categories of porn? Do you think people are doing woke porn? Do you think people are being like, oh no, I can't secretly masturbate to that. It's not woke enough. This is an imaginary problem. To this day, the man is partly facing censure for his professional regulatory words from his professional regulator over these words. What the fuck? Now, it is fucked up actually for a therapist to publicly be like, this whole group of people who might be struggling with their appearance are ugly. I'm just going to point out, a therapist is like the last profession I would think should be doing that. Because, like, what the fuck are we doing? Therapists should be the most aware of it. But Jordan Peterson just wants to virtue signal the concept of traditional attraction. Here's a fun fact, you. You do not need to broadcast the people you aren't attracted to. Broadcasting the people you are attracted to technically is fine. It's fine because everyone has a type and we all understand that. Some people might have wanted to whack it to a Sports Illustrated with a plus size model. And also, plus size is such a ridiculous term. Do you understand that beauty standards have changed dramatically in the last few years? I just watched fucking Indiana Jones and the Crusaders of the Last Ark the other night. And you know what? Indiana Jones' body looks good in it. But you know what? It also looks attainable. I think I could look as good as he does in that movie. He doesn't look like Thor or anything from the MCU movies. He looks in shape. But not like ridiculous. Remember when we used to, did you know there was a point where people didn't like big butts? That was a thing. I'm old enough to remember that time where people weren't as into big butts. We all love big butts now. We had our minds open to big butts via hip hop. Beauty standards change and are relative to the individual who is experiencing them. It is perfectly fine to call someone you think is beautiful, regardless of their body type, beautiful. It's weird to broadcast no fat chicks. It's weird to broadcast no ugly chicks. Also, ugly is very relative. In fact, even fat is relative. There's a meme going around right now, and it shows like Joker from Full Metal Jacket, and it goes, remember in this movie when we thought this guy was fat? And by today's standard, he is not. At all. We've all been pressured into pretending that we are bad people if we aren't attracted to every influencer wannabe who is attractive by any reasonable standard of beauty. Here's the thing about that. Like, in a standard conversation talking with people, I don't think there's anything wrong with saying, yeah, no, that person's just, they're not my type. That's fine. It's reasonable. It's respectable. But like, to broadcast to the world that you think a certain type of person is ugly and they shouldn't be getting any credit for their attractiveness at all, that says a lot more about you. That's a very weird take. And like, of course, people are going to fight you because, like I said, beauty is in the eye of the beholder. We've all been pressured into pretending we are bad people if we aren't attracted to every influencer wannabe who is unattractive by any reasonable standard of beauty. But what are you making your standard of beauty on? Do you remember how the Chinese women used to literally break and re-break their feet until they had this weird, almost goat hoof bullshit instead of regular feet? Wait, was that China or Japan? I just did a race. I think I did a racism. Fuck. This is why I don't do weird kids. It is the adult equivalent of handing out prize ribbons to every kid on sports day. What? No, it's not. What? How? How is it like that? That is the worst fucking... That is how. What is that comparison? Beauty, it's not a prize. It's not a sport. It's not a talent. You can make an argument that beauty takes work, but like that's a superficial beauty that's based on your societal standards and like how you like accentuate your own natural beauty under that. Oh, I'm getting into the weeds. The point is that is not a good comparison. Even if that kid who face planted in the mud puddle and couldn't finish a potato sack race. You hear that? Ugly people, you're like a kid who can't win a potato sack race. Everyone wins and everyone must be regarded as beautiful, except, of course, the people who actually are. Is that the end of it? Yeah, that is the end of it. That is the end of that incredibly stupid article. Holy shit. It is a stupid article. And you know how I know it's a stupid article? Because they couldn't form a coherent argument. They don't know anything. They're making an appeal to the concept that other people who think like them will automatically be like, yeah, these people aren't attractive to me. And I don't feel like I should have to say they are. Because, and get this, you don't. But you need to ask yourself why you feel necessary to broadcast your type. in a negative way. Why do you want to broadcast that? See, because that's not the same thing as saying, oh man, Sydney Sweeney is beautiful. She has beautiful, voluptuous breasts and a gorgeous face. I think Sydney Sweeney is hot. It's not the same thing as saying, it's not at all the same thing as saying, by the way, I think Lizzo is ugly. Now, to be clear, that's an example. I don't think Lizzo is ugly. The point I am making here, though, is what is the value of the information that has been exchanged? If you say Sydney Sweeney is hot, then it's like, oh, okay, guy likes Sydney Sweeney. If you say Lizzo is fat, first of all, technically true, but I don't necessarily think that's a bad thing. If you broadcast to the world that you think that Lizzo is ugly, or that you think someone like Scarlett Johansson is mid, a thing people have actually attempted to post, all you're really doing is asking people to argue with you. Now, technically, what you're looking for is to someone to validate your beliefs about their appearance, and some people probably will. But it's easier to get a validation for a positive than for a negative, especially on something that is technically subjective. It's like this. I go on Tinder all the time, and I'm trying to find me some love. And I always come across these women whose profiles say something like this: no black guys. And the thing about that is it's Tinder. You don't have to put that in your Tinder profile, because you're only going to talk to the people that you both agreed to swipe right on. So if you just don't want any black guys on Tinder, you could just not swipe right on any black guys, and then no one will think you're racist. You know, instead of you just broadcasting that you're racist. Now, I'm not saying that so that women can get away with it. It actually makes my life easier swiping left on people who are like, oh, racist. But the point is that if you don't want to draw attention to yourself, maybe keep your negative, unpopular comments to yourself. Like, don't get me wrong, I'm not saying not to express your unpopular opinions or your complaints. I love to complain. Love it. It makes me so hard. Kids don't watch my videos anyways. I can get away with these jokes. I've looked at the stats. The point is simply this. Sydney Sweeney's tits have not changed anything. This fictionalized concept of beauty is merely a right-wing talking point made by men who want to feel important. It has no basis in history, philosophy, or anything, really. It's just people on the internet fighting about their opinions like their opinions are facts. And the fact of the matter is, they're not. They're not facts. All right, well, that concludes today's episode, as I shall call it, a tale of titties and TikToks. Nope, TikToks and titties, technically. I hope you enjoyed the episode. If you like what you've heard or seen here, you can follow me on Spotify or wherever else you get your podcasts. Well, maybe not everywhere you get your podcasts, but I'm on a lot of podcast places. Or you can like and subscribe on YouTube, which statistically is probably where you're taking this in. YouTube surpassed how many hits I'm getting on Spotify real fast. Spotify, work on that. Although, fun fact, Spotify users care a lot more about Project 2025 than YouTubers. Just a fact. Thank you for watching. If you would like to contact me, you can email me at rubenuncut@gmail.com. Have a wonderful whatever, wherever, whoever, however you are.